Congress just left for vacation. They couldn't agree on funding, so they went home. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court hasn't taken a day off in over a year. In the last 12 months, 9 unelected judges have decided whether 300,000 Venezuelans can stay in this country, whether ICE can conduct raids in Los Angeles, whether people can be deported to South Sudan, a country so dangerous the State Department won't send its own people there. And right now, whether babies born on American soil are even citizens. No debate, no vote, no recess, just decisions. 535 elected representatives who can't agree on lunch. 9 unelected judges who just decided the fate of millions. You voted for Congress. You didn't vote for the Supreme Court. So why is only one of them working? I'm Mucho Balinda, and today I'm going to show you how we got here and what it means for the future of American democracy. The last time Congress acted, let me give you a number, 1986. That's the last time Congress passed comprehensive immigration reform. The Immigration Reform and Control Act, signed by Ronald Reagan, 1986. Think about it. The Berlin Wall was still standing. The internet didn't exist. The World Wide Web wouldn't go online for another 5 years. That's how long ago Congress actually did its job on immigration. Now, they've tried. I want to be fair. In 2006, the Comprehensive Immigration Reform Act passed the Senate 62 to 36. It died in the House. In 2007, another attempt died in the Senate. In 2013, the Gang of 8 bill. It passed the Senate 68 to 32. A huge bipartisan majority. Never got a vote in the House. 2021, the U.S. Citizenship Act, introduced by Biden, stalled. Multiple attempts, 0 results. Here's what nobody explains to you when Congress doesn't act. Power doesn't just disappear. It moves to the executive branch. Presidents start using executive orders to do what Congress wants. Obama creates DACA by executive action. Trump tries to end it by executive action. Biden tries to protect it by executive action. Trump comes back and invokes the Alien Enemies Act, a law from 1798. Every president pushes executive power further because Congress leaves them no choice. And every time someone sues, and who decides if those executive actions are legal? The Supreme Court. Not because they want the job, but because someone has to do it and Congress won't. The court isn't grabbing power. Congress is giving it away. Let me show you what the Supreme Court has been doing while Congress argues about nothing. These are real cases, real decisions, real consequences for real people. Case number 1. The Alien Enemies Act. March 2025. The Trump administration invokes the Alien Enemies Act, a law written in 1798, used only 3 times before, all during actual declared wars. The target? Venezuelan nationals the government claims are members of the Tren de Aragua, a gang they say is conducting an invasion of the United States. Here's what happened. Before the executive order was even made public, before anyone could challenge it, DHS started moving Venezuelan detainees to a facility in south of Texas. They were pulled from their cells, told that they would be deported the next day to an unknown destination. Lawyers filed an emergency lawsuit. The federal judge scheduled a hearing, and while that hearing was happening, planes were already in the air. The judge issued an order, stop the deportations, The planes didn't turn around. They landed in El Salvador. The men were transferred directly into CECOT, a prison the State Department calls one of the most dangerous facilities in the world. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's response on social media? Oopsie. The case went to the Supreme Court, and here's what they ruled. Everyone, even people the government calls gang members, is entitled to notice and an opportunity to be heard before they are deported. That's not a liberal position. That's not a conservative position. That's constitutional due process. And all 9 justices agreed on it. Justice Kavanaugh wrote separately to emphasize the court isn't stopping deportations. It's making sure the judiciary can decide whether they're lawful before they happen. But here's what I want you to notice. This is a question Congress should have answered decades ago. What process is required before someone is removed? What rights do non-citizens have? Under what circumstances can the president invoke emergency powers? Congress never clarified it, so the Supreme Court has to, case by case, emergency order by emergency order. Case number 2, TPS for Venezuelans, October 2025. The Supreme Court grants an emergency request from the Trump administration to end temporary protective status for over 300,000 Venezuelans. TPS is exactly what it sounds like, temporary protection for people from countries experiencing war, natural disasters, or extraordinary conditions. Venezuela qualifies on multiple counts. A lower court judge had blocked the termination. The Supreme Court overruled him, 6-3. 300,000 people, their status changed overnight. Not because Congress debated it, not because there was a vote, because 9 people decided. Is the court wrong? Maybe, maybe not. That's not my point. My point is, this is a policy decision. TPS exists because Congress created it. Congress could clarify exactly how it works, when it can be terminated, what process is required. They haven't. So the court decides. Case 3, ICE raids in Los Angeles. Perdomo versus Noem. The Supreme Court ruled that ICE can continue immigration operation in the Los Angeles area. The city of Los Angeles had tried to limit federal immigration enforcement. The court said no. DHS called a win for the safety of Californians and the rule of law. But notice, the court isn't making immigration policy. It's interpreting the Constitution, specifically whether federal law preempts local sanctuary policies. That's its job. Congress could write a law that clarifies exactly what cities can and cannot do. They could create a framework. They could set boundaries. Instead, they leave it to the court to figure out, city by city, lawsuit by lawsuit. Case number 4, deportations to South Sudan. This one is hard to talk about. People were deported to South Sudan, a country experiencing civil war, famine, and what the UN calls systemic human rights violations. The State Department's own travel advisory says Americans should not travel there. It's too dangerous for our diplomats. But we sent deportees. A federal judge found that the deportations violated due process. The government had rushed people onto planes without giving them a chance to argue they'd face torture or death. The case went to the Supreme Court. The court granted the government a stay, meaning the deportations could continue while the legal fight plays out. Justice Sotomayor dissenting wrote, each time this court rewards non-compliance with discretionary relief, it further erodes respect for courts and for the rule of law. I'm not going to tell you who's right. What I'm going to tell you is that this question, can we deport people to countries where they face near certain harm is a question Congress could answer and hasn't. Case 5. Birthright citizenship. Now, pending before the court whether the 14th Amendment's guarantee of birthright citizenship applies to children born to undocumented parents. President Trump signed an executive order challenging birthright citizenship. Multiple courts blocked it. The Supreme Court agreed to hear the case. A decision is expected by summer of this year, 2026. This isn't a small question. The 14th Amendment has been understood to guarantee citizenship to virtually everyone born on American soil since 1898. Since the Supreme Court's decision in United v. Wong Kim R. If the court changes that interpretation, it will affect millions of people, families, children, the entire concept of what it means to be American. And Congress? Silent, as always. Now, here's where I have to be honest with you about something. People look at these same cases and see completely different things, and they're not wrong to. Perspective 1. The court is finally enforcing the law. Some people look at this decision and say, good, finally. Congress wrote immigration laws. Those laws say you can't be here illegally. Presidents for decades refused to enforce them. Now, someone is, and the court is backing them up. From this view, the court isn't making policy. It's holding the executive branch to the laws Congress actually passed. That's exactly what courts are supposed to do. This perspective is reasonable. Perspective 2. The court is making policy without accountability. Others look at the same cases and see something dangerous. 9 people appointed for life, accountable to no one, are making decisions that affect millions of lives. And they're doing it through emergency orders, shadows dockets, and stays that happen at midnight without full briefing or argument. From this view, the court has too much power. It's become a super legislature, except you didn't vote for any of them, and there's no way to vote for them out. This perspective is also reasonable. Congress created this mess, and some people, including myself, look at all this and see the real culprit. Congress. The court is doing what courts do, interpreting law and resolving disputes. That's its constitutional role. The executive is doing what executives do, pushing the limits of their authority when they think they are right. Congress is doing nothing. 40 years of nothing. And when you do nothing, you create a vacuum, and vacuums get filled. The court didn't ask for this job, but someone has to do it, and Congress made sure it won't be them. Here's what keeps me up at night. We're living through a fundamental shift in how American power works, and almost no one is explaining it. The Constitution imagined 3 branches checking each other. Congress makes laws, the president enforces them, the court interprets them. But what happens when one branch stops functioning? Congress can't pass laws, so presidents rule by executive orders. Courts have to decide if those orders are legal, and the Supreme Court becomes the de facto policymaker. Not by choice, but by default. This isn't how democracy is supposed to work. Democracy means the people decide through their elected representatives. But when those representatives can't agree on anything, the people don't decide, judges do. And here's the uncomfortable truth. It doesn't matter who's on the court, liberal justices, conservative justices. As long as Congress is broken, the court will keep making decisions that should be made democratically. You can love this court or hate it, but it's a symptom, not a disease. The disease is a Congress that gets paid $174,000 a year to argue, and then goes home. Right now, as you watch this, Congress is on recess. DHS funding lapsed at midnight. TSA agents are working without pay. FEMA is operating on fumes. The Coast Guard is stretched thin. The Supreme Court, still working, still deciding, still filling the vacuum that Congress refused to fill. I'm not here to tell you the court is right or wrong. I'm not here to tell you Democrats or Republicans are the problem. I'm here to tell you this is how it works now. And you deserve to understand. You voted for Congress. You didn't vote for the Supreme Court, but only one of them is making the decisions that shape your life. That's not left or right. That's not partisan. That's just the truth. And until Congress remembers how to do its job, it's going to stay this way. Belinda, this is the third voice. The law belongs to all of us, but right now, it speaks a language most of us were never taught. That has to change. Subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next one.